so Greg is hard. But ignore these, and Greg won't lose any HP. But first let's go over the basic. Greg has a debuff counter besides his HP bar, and it changes color when Greg reaches certain debuff counts. The debuff requirement is different for each difficulty, but generally you want the counter to be green, so Greg takes more damage, and your students survive longer. In case you're wondering, crowd control effect like taunts or fear are not debuffs. To know which student has debuffs, just copy the top team or check on shell.gg. But debuffs like chill are not that useful, which I will go into details later. To raise the debuff counter, apply as many debuffs as possible. Quantity is better than quality here, but some are more useful than others. Debuff stacking rule applies when applying debuffs if the debuffs has the same type and source. In this case, both are X skills that can reduce enemies' defense. So in battle, their last debuff will overwrite the previous one. If the debuffs are from different sources, here's Itakani and Moki basic skill. They stacks. Since the counter only track active debuffs, you will need to reapply them if they runs out. Back to the basic. Greg has blue attack and red armor, and during the battle choir members also appear. So if you use S Hoshino, make sure she's UE 30 at least. Same for Mini, 3-star is fine, but if you have her at 5-star it's easier. Back to the choir. They are like the minions in Pararodzilla. Any damage to them bounces back to Greg, but there are exceptions.
Nope.
The choir mirrors all debuffs applied to Greg, except damage over time debuffs like chill or poison. Otherwise Sire would be OP here, and the debuff is only applied one way. So if a choir member get defense down, Greg debuff counter won't go up. At first, the choir doesn't hit that hard, but after 40 seconds, their attack are doubled, so take them down before then. The choir appears on the left in phase 2, on the right in phase 3. In the final phase, here the choir can recover after they lose all their HP. Plus you can no longer fill Greg yellow bar, also known as the groggy bar, so the fight often ends after 55 seconds. Choir members also gain a stacking attack speed buff, maxing out at 5 stacks, while your team receives a cost regeneration buff every 10 seconds. So you can use these buffs to sacrifice a student and cycle skills faster. Next let's talk about organs. They varies in sizes and colors, but focus on the central organ, the organ of suffering. This organ have 2 sides, the white side with the white aura and the black side. You can rotate the organ by using an X skill, but note that the aura gives different effects each time. It can either remove the last debuff or make the ones receiving the aura takes more damage. You can see them in the real run later. Now let's go over some bugs. The left choir in the second phase doesn't help build groggy. As you can see, the yellow bar doesn't fill up here. Filling the groggy bar. Stun Greg for 10 seconds. Depending on when you stun the boss, you'll get a few extra seconds in the final phase, but there is a trade-off here. If you use our routine, then hitting the choir deals more damage, except these 3 in phase 3. Hitting them doesn't transfer damage to Greg, as you can see here. So with Minori team, you can choose not to hit them and do this instead. The choir on the right is also bug in the final phase. That's why ROX is only used on the left. Of course the choir attacks still hurt, but some sacrifices must be made. Now that you've known the basics, here's a quick demo run. Assuming all the bugs in JP server are still there. First start by turning the central organ with Kaoru. Next I use Mini X to debuff Greg. The timing is important here, because the central organ is about to release the black aura. Along with Mini basic skills, you now have 5 debuffs on Greg. The red organs remove the last applied debuff. In this case, it's Mini evasion debuff from her basic skill. Next use Mini X to shield Kaoru from the left choir, and the central organ will remove 1 debuff from your team. For Aru team, hitting the choir gives more damage, so you can't build groggy at all. Turn the organ again with Kaoru X. Similar to phase 1, delay Mini X. That way the red organ only removes Mini evasion debuff. Here comes the day buff from the black aura. The red organs can also add 1 day buff. If Greg already have 6 debuffs available, which never happens in our routine. So yeah, the red ones just screw up your day buff count. For phase 3, you want to take down the right choir fast. Heal your team, but don't turn the organ here. We wait for Minori basic again. Next, heal your team again from the damage by the yellow organ. And turn the organ, so Greg takes 50% more damage later. Play at X1 speed if you need to in the final phase. Because of the increased attack speed, Minori is slowly dying here. But it's fine for this clear. If you find it hard to finish the boss in one team, you can set up the second team in advance. I'll leave my team 2 with Selena in the timestamps. So yeah, team 2, but I am too lazy. That's why Minori is here as well.